Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have how big is the universe? Okay, so we have our sun, which is a star that is surrounded by, we'll say 9 planets, and that makes up our solar system. Our solar system is located within the Milky Way galaxy, and it is currently believed that there are about 200 other solar systems in our galaxy. That's a lot of planets floating around in our galaxy alone, but that's not it. In our observable universe, the things we can tangibly see, there's about 150 billion other galaxies. And that's just what we can see. That number could technically go on for, well, that's exactly the thing. We don't know how much that number could grow, but it's been theorized that the number is 250 times higher than the 150 billion we can see. That's like an incomprehensible amount, and that's just galaxies. When we take that knowledge and apply it to how many solar systems that would mean, and how many planets that would mean, I can totally understand why we may never know for sure just how big the universe is, but this really does have the ability to make you feel exceptionally small. In our number 9 spot today, we have energetic cosmic rays. Energetic cosmic rays are described as high-energy protons and atomic nuclei that move through space at nearly the speed of light. There are some that originate from supernovas, but there are some that originate from outside of our galaxy, and those ones have scientists wondering where they are coming from and what the source of them is. As these cosmic rays flow into our solar system, their paths are bent by the magnetic fields of both the sun and the earth. Upon impact with Earth's atmosphere, these rays produce a shower of secondary particles. Some of these particles do end up reaching Earth, but most are intercepted by either the magnetosphere or the heliosphere. The strongest cosmic rays are extremely powerful, and they can have energies over 100 million times greater than a man-made collider. If you're wondering why you should care about this space mystery, it's because these things have the power to cause our digital systems to crash, and in our ever-increasing digital world, that would cause some major disruptions to our life. This is why we care about how many of their origins remain a complete mystery that has scientists stumped. And also because shouldn't we just know where these things that are bombarding Earth's atmosphere are coming from? In our number 8 spot today, we have what is dark energy? Astronomer Edwin Hubble, whom the Hubble telescope is obviously named after, in the 1920s made the discovery that the universe is not static and in fact is actually expanding. He was studying a supernova when he realized that the universe was not only expanding, but it was expanding at a much higher rate now than it was a long time ago. This discovery was groundbreaking because prior to this, scientists believed that the gravity of matter would end up at least slowing the expansion of the universe, if not causing it to contract. Since this switched up everyone's way of thinking so much, there then began to be the debated topic of dark energy. This is the idea that there is an inexplicable force that is pulling the cosmos apart at speeds that are only increasing. Dark energy is said to make up 73% of the universe, but we still haven't been able to pin it down directly and detect it. Basically what I'm saying is we're pretty sure it's there, but we have no idea what it is. So that's a little terrifying. In our number 7 spot today, we have what is dark matter? Okay, if dark energy and all the mysteries it holds weren't enough, now we've got dark matter to talk about, and I'm sorry, but there's no more answers with this one either. In the 1960s and 1970s, scientists began to hypothesize that there might be more mass in the universe than we can see. After this, an astronomer with the Carnegie Institution of Washington named Vera Rubin was studying the speed of stars at different locations within galaxies. What she found was that there was essentially no difference in the velocity of the stars, whether they were closer to the center of the galaxy or whether they were further out. This was an interesting discovery because that defied the most basic laws of physics, right? Like applying what we knew at that point, it would have made more sense for the stars on the outskirts of the galaxy to orbit more slowly than those at the center. In order to explain this and why this was happening, astronomers began discussing the phenomena of dark matter. It can't be seen, but it has a mass, which is how it is able to be detected because it exerts some sort of gravitational pull on regular matter. Dark matter makes up 23% of the universe, and if you remember, dark dark energy accounts for 73%, so that leaves us with a whopping 4% of matter that we understand better and know more about, which is matter like humans, planets, stars, and that sort of thing. The other 96% of what the universe is made of is one of space's greatest mysteries. In our number 6 spot today we have the sun. The extra hot outer atmosphere of the sun is called the corona. It extends thousands of kilometers above the visible surface of the sun, and it ends up transforming into solar wind that flows throughout our solar system. The corona is usually sitting at a temperature of 500,000 to 6 million degrees Celsius, or 900,000 to 10.8 million degrees Fahrenheit. Apparently for years, scientists have been stumped on how exactly the sun has the ability to continually reheat the corona. Astronomers have been able to narrow down all of the possibilities to energy beneath the surface and some sort of processes in the sun's magnetic field, but the exact mechanics of the coronal heating is still highly debated. Just last year in June of 2020, however, scientists did get one step closer to potentially being able to answer this question. There were tiny bursts of energy detected called nanoflares, and this might be what is responsible for the heating of the outer atmosphere. In our number 5 spot today we have KIC 8462852. Ah yes, the star with the most memorable name. This star, which has also been referenced as Tabby's star or the WTF star, is an F-type main sequence star which is located in the constellation Cygnus about 1,470 light years away from Earth. This star is of particular importance because of the fact that it shows unusual light shifts, which includes a 22% dimming in brightness. Basically, from our point of view, something continually blocks the star, and it likely isn't a planet because a Jupiter-sized planet would only block about 1% of a star the size of this one. So what could it possibly be? There are a few theories out there surrounding this anomaly, but none are able to fully explain what is happening here. Some believe that it is some sort of uneven ring of dust orbiting the star. Others believe that the star's luminosity fluctuates depending on the efficiency of the heat being transported to its photosphere. These are just two of the theories surrounding the star, but there are many more out there, and at this point we just don't know. Hopefully once the James Webb Telescope is launched, however, we will be able to get a more clear picture of what may be happening over there on KIC 8462852. In our number 4 spot today we have a supermassive black hole. Why is there a supermassive black hole at the center of most galaxies? We know that this is often the case, but we just can't figure out why. Every galaxy's supermassive black hole ranges in size, and we know that a stellar black hole forms from a supernova when the core of the star implodes, but we don't know how a supermassive black hole is formed. Because of the fact that the center of galaxies is where a lot of matter is boxed in, it could happen that supermassive black holes form from a cluster of regular stellar black holes which end up all merging together because they were in a tight confined space at the center of the galaxy. There are other theories as well, such as the possibility of these supermassive black holes being formed during the Big Bang. What I'm trying to get at is we don't know how these things are formed, or why they're in the center of most galaxies, or even if there were supermassive black holes before the galaxies even existed. Maybe one day we'll find out, but this might just be one of those mysteries destined to stay a secret. In our number 3 spot today we have the space roar. Space is a vacuum, so it should be silent, right? Well, apparently it's not. It is said that the entire universe is alive with sound, and there is a thing called a space roar. Space roar apparently isn't an everyday sound and is rather these strange radio signals that scientists have detected throughout space. These signals are so loud that they are able to drown out other signals, which can be quite annoying for the scientists who are trying to study and learn. While we know what the sound is, we don't know where it is coming from. Apparently some people believe it was coming from the leftover radiation from early stars, and some others believe it was from the gases swirling around the galaxy in clusters, but at the end of the day, no one is really sure, and it remains one noisy mystery. In our number 2 spot today we have, how will the universe end? Perhaps a morbid question, but it's a good one. I mean, all good things must come to an end, and that might include our universe itself. But maybe it doesn't. I mean, we don't know. That's That's the whole point of this video. There are theories, such as the Big Crunch, which suggests that the expansion of the universe, which has been ongoing since the Big Bang, will eventually slow to a stop, and then the universe will give way to the force of gravity, essentially just pulling everything, planets, galaxies, it all into a single dense point until everything is just wiped out. There are other theories out there, such as the Big Freeze, the Big Bounce, or the Big Rip, which perhaps sounds the most terrifying of them all, although I'm not particularly interested in any of these options so far. The good news is, this is all billions and billions of years away, so we won't be around to find out regardless. But when it does happen, it'll be a pretty spectacular event. In our number 1 spot today we have, where is everybody? Perhaps one of the biggest space mysteries is, are we alone in the universe? Are we the only intelligent life that exists? Where the heck is everyone else? We can all hypothesize and make educated guesses, but at the end of the day, no one really knows, because to know, you have to have proof and evidence. There are many theories as to why we haven't found any extraterrestrial friends yet, and they range from the belief that we are the only intelligent life in the universe, to the belief that we are a nursery planet right now that is protected from other advanced civilizations so as to not disrupt our development. I kinda like that idea. Imagine we're just currently being taken care of by our sweet alien next door neighbors. That's a weirdly comforting thought. Despite all these theories, at the end of the day, we don't know where aliens are or if they exist at all. A Pennsylvania State University team that was being led by Dr. Jason Wright made an astonishing point, however, when they said that there is no mystery. We have searched only a fraction of the galaxy, equivalent to the water in a hot tub compared to all of Earth's oceans. This is certainly something to consider. As Douglas Adams put it, space is big, you just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot we have, how did the galaxies form? When you look out into the night sky with a telescope, you'll see a lot of what you think are stars, but many of these points of light are actually galaxies. Galaxies are made up of stars, dust, and dark matter, which are all held together by gravity, but here's the thing, astronomers aren't exactly sure how our galaxies came to be. After the Big Bang occurred, space was mostly made up of hydrogen and helium, but galaxies as we know them weren't a thing yet. There are of course speculations as to what may have happened, like gravity pulling dust and gas together to form individual stars, and then as those stars were drawn closer together they ended up forming collections that turned into galaxies. Others think the mass of what would one day end up being galaxies was drawn together even before the stars were created. At this point in time it's all theories and no one is quite sure what the real answer is. I mean, at the end of the day we weren't even close to existing yet, so can you blame anyone for not having all of the answers? In our number 9 spot today we have missing stars. It would seem insane to think that a star could just vanish, right? But that's exactly what might be happening. For thousands of years astronomers had accepted the idea that stars were just fixed and unchanging, but that slowly shifted into the realization that stars are physical objects and they go through major changes very slowly, like on a timeline of millions or billions of years. And when it is time for some of the most massive stars in the universe to reach the end of their lives, they go out with a bang. Almost literally. The supernova explosion is spectacular and can sometimes shine for many months and even be seen across hundreds of millions of light years. This brings us to the mystery of some stars that seemingly just vanish in the blink of an eye. According to what we know about stars, that shouldn't be the case, so where are they going? This has led to there being teams of scientists and experts who are examining both current as well as past observations of the sky to see if there is any sort of pattern when it comes to these disappearing stars, as well as to find the answers as to where they have gone. In our number 8 spot today we have the galactic phantom. Our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, is quite honestly pretty massive, but what if I told you there's some sort of hypothetical massive celestial cloud right in the middle of it? The Oort cloud isn't just some sort of hypothetical object, it is an entire hypothetical expanse of space that we're maybe kind of pretty sure exists. The reason we think this thing exists even though it's invisible is because of comets that follow a bizarre orbit that's in sync with something that seems to be this sort of massive celestial cloud. Everything in our solar system has a bit of a gravitational connection to this cloud, and it's possible that everything is surrounded by it. So what I'm trying to say is that we might all basically be engulfed in this cloud but have absolutely no idea because we can't see it. If the Oort cloud doesn't exist, then what is causing these things? And if it does exist, well, what is it? In our number 7 spot today we have travel at the speed of light. Here's the thing, nothing except for maybe some sort of situation regarding quantum entanglement, which we will get into shortly, can travel faster at the speed of light. It's the fastest thing we know of. So now, here's our question. Will humans ever be able to travel at the speed of light? At the speed of light, someone could travel 299,792,458 meters per second. This means that you could circle the Earth more than 7 times in one single second. That's super fast, and if humans could travel at these speeds, it would mean that we would finally be able to travel outside of our own solar system, which would provide us immeasurable insight into what lies in the universe. In 1947, humans were able to figure out how to travel faster than the speed of sound, jets, and while this is a much slower speed, it's still a technological advancement that should not be overlooked. As of what we know right now, the answer to this question regarding the speed of light is no, but what if that's just because we don't have the technology now? That doesn't mean we won't ever. In our number 6 spot today, we have how fast is the universe expanding? For quite a few years now, the Hubble Space Telescope has been calculating the speed at which the universe is expanding, because if you didn't know, the universe is constantly expanding. I guess I should have led with that, but we're all on the same page now regardless. So recently the telescope came up with what is now accepted as the most precise measurements we've ever had. That's great and very cool, so where's the mystery? Well, this rate is a huge conflict with other independent and apparently equally as precise measurements in regard to the expansion of the early universe. Why is this an issue? Well, it means we know even less about our universe than we once thought. How terrifying. Apparently the scientific community has been reeling over this discovery because no one is really sure exactly what it means. Great, so we know nothing about the universe or the Marianas Trench. I'm starting to wonder what we do know about. In our number 5 spot today, we have the shape of the universe. No, this isn't some Guillermo del Toro knockoff, no one is trying to get with the Oort cloud, it's just a super valid scientific mystery. Scientists have a lot of theories about the potential shape of the universe, but at this moment, the leading one is that it is flat and infinite. Okay, that is both terrifying and cool, and it's also weird to think of the entire universe as having a shape. Here's the thing with this theory though, since the universe has a known beginning and potentially an end point, we can only observe a certain amount of it, so how are we really to know? As NASA has said in the past, all we can truly conclude is that the universe is much larger than the volume we can directly observe. There's something freaky about the people who would be the ones to have the answer, not having the answer. The universe is truly just unfathomable. In our number 4 spot today, we have are there parallel universes? So everything is made up of little tiny particles, right? And there's only so many ways that those particles can be arranged in space and time. Some would call this a finite amount of ways that they could be arranged. And then the universe where all of these particles live is possibly flat and infinite, right? Well, at least, like we just discussed, it's theorized to maybe be. And if this is the case, do you see where I'm going? So if the universe is infinite and the particles that exist in it have a finite amount of ways that they can be arranged, surely means that somewhere out there things would have to start repeating. Right? I think at this point you see where I'm going with this. I mean, the deduction is certainly scientific, but it just seems so hard to really wrap my mind around. I guess we need to have the answer to our previous question before we can even begin looking into this one. What if there really is a reality parallel to ours? I hope the other version of me is cool and has like pink hair or something like that. In our number 3 spot today, we have what came before the Big Bang. Some of you out there don't like hearing about the Big Bang, and that's okay, but today we are talking about it because it is likely what created the universe. I mean, really, do you have any better, more scientifically accurate theories? Okay, this isn't a fight, so let's get to the question. What happened before the Big Bang? Well, no one knows for sure because, no one was around. I mean, almost nothing was around, so what could there have been? Something obviously had to exist for the Big Bang to have occurred at all, but what? Stephen Hawking apparently didn't have time for this question though, because he states that not only did nothing exist, but anything that happened before the universe came into existence lacks observational consequence, so we may as well cut it all out of the theory and say that time began at the Big Bang. I like to ask big questions, but to save my brain from exploding, I might have to agree with the brilliant Mr. Hawking. In our number 2 spot today, we have where did the moon come from? Our moon is our beloved sidekick that really helps us keep everything balanced here on Earth due to the gravitational gravitational pull that it has, and while we can't really think of an Earth without the moon, where did it actually come from? I mean, it was 100 million years after the solar system was formed that our moon showed up, but where did it come from? The most accepted theory at the moment is the collision theory, which states that the moon formed during a collision between Earth and another small planet around the size of Mars, and that the debris from the impact collected in orbit around Earth, and boom, our bestie the moon was born. But like I said, this is just the theory that seems the most likely, but it's entirely possible that this isn't true at all, because we simply just don't know for sure. Either way, whatever happened, I'm glad it did because the moon is tight and it helps us with a bunch of stuff like our axial tilt, which is super important to our lives as we know them. So shout out to the moon. In our number 1 spot today we have quantum entanglement. I honestly spent so much time trying to figure out a Will Smith joke to go with this one, but I just couldn't seem to figure it out, so if you've got any, drop them down in the comments and make me laugh. In reality, quantum entanglement is the phenomenon where two different particles, which are in totally different parts of the universe, can be linked to one another and mirror the behavior and state of the other partner. This is a very interesting phenomenon for a few reasons, part of which is because it breaks some of the fundamental laws of physics. For these particles to be connected from so far away, they need to be sending signals to each other, but these signals need to travel faster than the speed of light, which is not something that was once thought possible, like we already know. Another mystery surrounding this entanglement is that objects are only supposed to be affected by their surroundings, so something happening on the other side of the universe affecting something on this side is certainly just strange. Despite these seeming impossibilities, studies suggest that quantum entanglement really does exist, and although we don't quite understand it, one day it might be very useful to us.
Number 10. The planet Mercury, not the element, of course. The mystery of Mercury will probably never be solved because we have a lot on our plate at the moment, but also because the mysteries themselves are just boggling. One, it's too close to the sun to get a proper look at it, but the tidbits of information we have been able to capture still lead to more questions. For a while, scientists believed that Mercury's terrain had been burnt up by the sun, which makes sense, but then a spacecraft discovered delicate volatiles like potassium and uranium that should have been destroyed that close to the sun. Their mere presence argued even against the well-established theory that Mercury has a massive metallic core. The Messenger probe completed 4,105 orbits in order to accumulate enough data to understand how Mercury formed, but instead of answers, they just got more questions. It found evidence of volcanic activity, interacting with water, and even ice lurking in polar craters, similar to that on our very own moon. How does water survive on a planet that close to the sun? Turns out there's a lot we don't know about this scorching planet, and chances are we will never truly find out. Or maybe we will. Who knows? Nothing's that impossible. Number 9. The Great Attractor. We all know someone who thinks they're the center of the universe. You know, the universe revolves around them, but I ain't talking about you, Karen, okay? The Great Attractor is a mystery that dominates our little corner of the universe. About 200 million light years away, there's a cluster in space that appears to be pulling our galaxy towards it. Its gravitational force is so strong enough to pull our massive galaxy along for the ride wherever the heck it's going at 600 kilometers per second. So what are we waiting for? Point a telescope towards that thing and figure out what it is. But there's just one problem with that. We are in our own way. Our galaxy with all the dust, gas, and stars is sitting right in front of it, like the guy with the big head at the movie theaters that you're just too short to see over. Scientists are skeptical that we will ever find out what it is before dark matter eventually destroys it or we become a supercluster. We don't really know. Number 7. The white holes. Good versus evil. Light versus dark. Love versus hate. Opposites are a natural part of the universe, which is why Einstein said that if black holes exist, then white holes must too. Holes that emit light versus take it away. Thing is, we have never seen them, but just like parallel universes, they should exist, but so far we can't really prove it. Despite lack of physical evidence, logic and mathematical proof continues to support the theory to this day. If we do find one though, what would that mean? Could it mean that the light sucked into black holes does indeed transport to another point in the galaxy? Do they work as gateways? I don't know. Unless we find one, we just gotta wait. Number 6. Chicken or the egg? Though in this case I mean black hole or galaxy. Unless we hopped into the TARDIS and flew all the way back to the beginning of the universe, there's no way we will discover just exactly what happened. Even then, I'm pretty sure the Doctor has already crossed too many timelines, but who knows? Scientists are baffled and continue to debate as to whether black holes, or galaxies, were the first to form at the beginning. Chicken, meat, egg. Chris Carrilli of the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in New Mexico does side mostly with black holes, and I quote, "The significant implication that the black holes formed first and then somehow they formed a stellar galaxy around them," unquote. But there are still studies that say different, and it will probably continue to be studied and theorized for the end of time. We have no idea. We're never gonna find out. Someone build a time machine. David Tennant, rescue us! Anyways, or Tom Baker, but he's a bit old now, that's okay. Number 5, Planet 9. Surprisingly, I'm not talking about Pluto. I think it is an emotional decision as to whether you consider Pluto a planet at this point. It's not really considered a planet, but if you grew up considering it part of the rhyme, then, you know, you do you. Either way, scientists apparently believe that there is another planet yet to be included in our solar system. We just don't know where it is. Like what? Planet 9, or 10 depending how you look at it, is theorized to be an undiscovered planet at the fringes of our solar system. Based on the orbital trajectories of Uranus and Neptune, there are irregularities that make scientists narrow their eyes and make a thinking face like this. Konstantin Batkin, an assistant professor of the planetary science at the California Institute of Tech, believe that there is an object between 5 to 10 times larger than Earth trying to pull things out of whack. Maybe it's a planet, or maybe it's something else, but the search remains ongoing. Maybe one of the Voyagers will find it, or maybe we should call Pluto a planet and stop breaking hearts. Number 3. Where the heck is everybody? Alien theories are alien theories, and who knows if the government is hiding proof that alien life has visited and is currently having coffee in the White House. Bottom line, where the heck is everybody? Our solar system is pretty much empty despite some microbes we were checking out on Venus, pretty cool. But besides that, where is everybody? How the heck am I standing here recording a video for potentially 7 million of you, but I haven't had a conversation with an alien yet? I feel betrayed and lied to. For every grain of sand on every beach on Earth, this is just such an insane fact, there are 100 planets that are capable of sustaining biological life. We can't be the only ones sitting on computers of some kind wondering the same thing, sending out signals, but it's so quiet. The Fermi paradox, coined by Enric Fermi in the 1950s, attempts to explain this, and to date no one has been able to solve it, though it's, again, not really solvable. There are 2 categories. One is that we are the only intelligent life, and 2, that there is just a good reason we haven't been found. One being that they are staying hidden and actually watching us. So that's literally the best we got. That's it. That they're just aliens just somehow like sitting over here. Just like, oh shit, no, don't want to see me. Like that's what it's like. They're just hiding in a corner and they've been watching us this entire time. Number 1, the giant void. This one blows my mind. If I look up at the sky, it's just insane. Ever go camping, not just in your backyard, but somewhere way up north, away from city lights, and if it's a clear night, you may look up and wonder just how the universe could be so full. But what you may not know is that behind those stars, way out there, is a giant void in space filled with nothing except for dark matter and dark energy. Boote's void has scientists baffled. It's essentially a hole in the universe where galaxies never formed, except for maybe a couple. Around 350 million light years wide and a billion light years from Earth, scientists can't seem to unravel why nothing formed there. It's not a black hole, though it is a black hole in space filled with nothing. Whatever it is, it's causing scientists to reevaluate how the universe started, and we may never really find the answer. One hypothesis is that the void formed when 2 smaller ones collided, but that's about all we have in terms of theories.
starting us off with number 10 are the Dropa stones. Now misleadingly, they aren't stones at all but circular stone discs. The discs dated back around 12,000 years when they were first found in the early 60s, and there was a whopping 716 of them. Each one was around 1 foot in diameter with 2 grooves coming from the hole in the center. They also have tiny hieroglyphic markings inside the grooves that we've never seen before. In 1962, some Nui said he had managed to decipher the message and that it told the story of a spaceship that crashed into the cave they were found in, and that the shape had Dropa people in it who couldn't fix the discs and hence had to adapt to life on Earth. He believed the discs came from space because one glyph in particular said this: "The Dropa came down from the clouds in their aircraft. Our men, women and children hid in the caves 10 times before sunrise. When at last we understood the sign language of the Dropas, we realized that the newcomers had peaceful intentions." The weirdest part is that the discs were reported to have been displayed around many museums in China, but none of them have any traces of the Dropa stones ever being there. Moreover, there's no record of Sum Nui being a Chinese name or any link to him and the stones outside of China. So on one hand, we don't even know where the discs came from, and on the other, we don't even know who the man is who found them. Coming in at number 9 are the String of Lights. In 2005, Leroy Chiao, a former NASA astronaut, was on a spacewalk when he saw a strange formation of lights pass him. He said as the sun started rising, he looked in the opposite direction and saw a line of 5 lights. They flew by quickly in an echelon formation, with the second light being slightly out of line. He himself had no idea what they were, and he speculated that they were a constellation of satellites or bright lights actually on Earth. One aerospace engineer called James Smith theorized what Leroy saw may have been squid fishing boats off the coast of South America. They use bright lights to attract the squid, and they usually appear on images from weather satellites, so the option is plausible. Either way, to see that in space would have been truly something. At number 8 we have the UFO sighting. So back in 2015, NASA was accused of stopping their live feed from the International Space Station just as the UFO came into sight. It's hard to tell in the video, but a tiny grey circular object rises and then disappears in the footage right before the cutoff. I mean, it could also totally not be a UFO, but it's still an unidentified flying object, so make of that what you will. Dr. Brian O'Leary, an ex-NASA astronaut, said there's abundant evidence that we're being contacted and that civilizations have been visiting us for ages. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the 6th person on the moon, said there has been crashed craft and bodies recovered. We aren't alone in the universe, they've been coming here for a long time. These are their words, not mine. Filling our number 7 slot is Oumuamua, or its official name A/2017 UI. In 2017, the Pan-STARRS 1 telescope saw something zoom into our solar system. It's the first object ever that came from outside our solar system. At first they thought it was an asteroid or a comet due to its orbit, but they concluded it was from interstellar space. As soon as they found it, multiple telescopes around the globe focused in on it for 3 whole days. It was a rotating object the size of a football field. Literally, it was 10 times longer than it was wide, and it changed in brightness dramatically. It seemed to be a long cigar-shaped object with a reddish hue that came from millions of years of radiation from cosmic rays, and it spun on its axes every 7.3 hours. Its Hawaiian name Oumuamua means a messenger that reaches out from the distant past, which is pretty fitting if you ask me. Now, astronomers have figured out that the object came from the direction of Vega, which is a star in the Lyra constellation. But given that Oumuamua is traveling at 85,700 miles per hour, it would have taken a long time to travel that distance, and Lyra obviously isn't in the same place it was 300,000 years ago, so we really have no idea where it really originates from. We're trying to track it for as long as possible. It passed Mars and Jupiter's orbit, and it recently just passed Saturn's in January of 2019. It's en route to the Pegasus constellation and to be out of ours for a very long time. Now at number 6 is the music. In May of 1969, the crew of Apollo 10 heard some sort of outer space type music as they passed over the far side of the moon. They had been cut off from contact with Houston, so the 3 of them listened to this alone, and when communication channels reopened, they didn't mention the incident because they were worried the land crew would be concerned about their psychological state. The noise sounds like a low frequency whistling noise. For 1 hour, the astronauts in the recording talk about the weird tune but can come up with no explanation for it. Some say maybe it was an alien orchestra or the sound of a vessel nearby, while radio technicians guess it's probably from signal interference between the lunar modules and the command module's VHF radios. Which probably is the right answer, I'm not gonna lie. Just doesn't sound like an alien orchestra. Coming in at number 5 is the green orb. Now Major Gordon Cooper was orbiting the Earth in the Mercury capsule as part of the Mercury missions. However, during the mission he said he witnessed a green orb coming towards him. He quickly called mission control and started the emergency procedures, but the orb then randomly just disappeared. Even a tracking station in Muchie, Australia picked up an object approaching the capsule, so it definitely existed and it was definitely there, yet we have no explanations for this space orb. At number 4 is the flying object. In March of 1991, Russian cosmonaut Musa Manarov filmed a very strange occurrence from the Mir space station. Way behind the station in the distance there seemed to be a weird white reflective object. From what I could tell, it was a vertical spacecraft that was almost reflecting light off of it every few seconds. At one point the reflection light turns a reddish color and then the craft changes from vertical to horizontal and continues moving. The footage I watched came from the archives of the Soviet space authorities, so at least we know that it's legit. Most critics tried to argue the video was simply some space junk, but Musa vehemently disagreed. Filling our number 3 slot is the Millennium Falcon. Now while watching the ISS NASA live feed back in 2016, Jaden Beeson said he saw a metal spaceship. He said the UFO that he saw seemed similar to the Millennium Falcon found in Star Wars, so he realized he definitely needed to take a screenshot to prove what he was seeing. The metal craft had a blue glow to it and stayed hovering above Earth for about 2 minutes. It's very clear to see it's not a small craft by any means. Either way, Jaden sent the image to NASA but has not gotten any explanation or response back, which makes the whole thing even more suspicious. Are all these crafts just hovering above Earth and then just going away? Why? Please just come in, you guys. We are friends. Friends of ET, friends of extraterrestrials. Now at number 2 are the Dropa stones in space. Didn't think that one would make a comeback in the video, now did you? Back in 2006, NASA taped some debris floating around the shuttle Atlantis on mission STS-115. The first thing seen is a rectangular object that seems to be in the same orbital path as the Atlantis. The debris were donut-like white objects that were pulsating with light. Now most people think it wasn't debris at all, and that NASA is just saying that when they full well know it's something else. They told the public that maybe the debris were items that had gotten loose from the shuttle or had accidentally discharged from the bay. The Atlantis flight director said it's common to see bits of debris when astronauts open the payload doors at the start of mission, but it's unusual seeing objects late in the mission as they did in this case. But the debris had an uncannily similar appearance to the Dropa stone-shaped things that were found passing the STS-75 mission as well. The stones were miles wide and could be seen behind a 12-mile tether as it went into space and snapped loose. And finally, at number 1 is Major Vladimir. Now Major General Vladimir Kovalnyuk was a cosmonaut in the 80s who saw something bizarre during the Saljut mission. They were moving over South Africa when he saw an oval-shaped object. Initially it flew straight, but then an explosion of golden light happened. A few seconds later the oval object transformed into 2 golden spheres. After that, Vladimir just saw white smoke and the spheres had just disappeared. He said he tried to take a picture of it, but it exploded just before he could. When he reported to mission control, it was all over Soviet headlines, magazines, newspapers, and most people excluded any option of it being extraterrestrial, but it did happen. It has no explanation and it was seen by not 1 but 2 people, Vladimir and his partner Viktor Savinc.